You're listening to Sarah Hagan Backstage, with interviews and insights from years inside the music industry. Join Sarah as she talks with masters of their crafts, finding out what makes them tick, both inside and outside of the music business.
Welcome to Sarah Hagan Backstage. My guest today, Peter Erskine, is a world-renowned drummer, composer, educator, and clinician. And he has played with some of the most incredible musicians in his long history in the music industry. He's played on over 700 albums, 50 under his own name or as co-leader, and he's won 2 Grammy Awards. Peter talks today about what he has learned during the pandemic. He imparts some really valuable advice, and he gives a really great warm-up lesson. So come along with me as I catch up with Peter Erskine. Peter, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Sarah. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for being here.
My great pleasure. And here for me is I'm in my teaching studio at the Thornton School of Music at the University of Southern California.
Very nice. It looks fantastic. You've got everything you need there.
I have just about everything I need. If I were to give you a tour, it's a small room, but it's my room. And in addition to this computer setup here, I have a desk computer, and should we just dive into the setup here, because I'm kind of
yes, please.
Proud of it. Okay, folks. So you don't need me to tell you that the last couple of years have been a challenge for any number of reasons, including, of course, teaching. Mm-hmm. And we were not able to come to school, neither students or faculty. So at first I was teaching with the benefit of just a Zoom camera on my home desktop computer, and then I would, when I say Zoom, not only the platform Zoom, but the company Zoom, the QN2K, I think was. Am I saying that right?
I think that's right.
The Q2N4K, that's it. It's a lot of numbers and letters. So, and that's the camera I'm looking into now. And, I had a long enough length of cable, I could bring it over to a drum set. But then I thought, well, we're the University of Southern California. We're 4 miles down the road from Hollywood. We need to do a better job. So, with the school support, I started looking into options, and I came across a camera switching system that's made by a company known as Black Magic, and I had already had some good experience with a couple of their products. So I set up what became this 7-camera setup in my home studio, and the audio, using the Pro Tools setup, even though I was using a different platform known as Luna, made by Universal Audio. So I had one computer dedicated to all the audio processing, and then all the internet connectivity was being done on a second computer, everything controlled by this camera switching system. So it was a pretty razzle-dazzle kind of setup. But then we realized that we were on an uneven playing field. The students at that point, were surprise tenants in their own homes, their parents' home, and so the drum sets were relegated to garages or basements, or it seemed like the room that was the greatest distance from each home's Wi-Fi device. So many of these students lived in the Los Angeles area, or were stuck here. So we came up with the idea of a lesson pod, and that's what I'm sitting in now. So I did my best to recreate my home studio setup, but instead of 7 cameras, we maxed out at 4 cameras. And so each student could show me their drums from an overhead point of view, a side point of view for like snare drum stuff, or this foot cam. You see my headphone cable there, but pretty good shot, not only of my socks, but the bass drum. And it's been moved a bit, but I could also include the hi-hat if I needed to. And so I could see how well a student is navigating the pedals, heel down or heel up. Okay, so for the audio, let me see. I'm going to switch to the overhead for just a second while I grab this camera, so I can give you a bit of a tour. We wound up using. Oh, there's my. Any kids don't mess around with the drums.
Peter, let me just ask you a quick question. So you had your students come into this setup,
yes.
and you were at home.
I was at home.
Setup. That's
and
fantastic.
They would come into here, and at the time we were allowing. It was a 3-hour window, so a student could come in, use the room. Then professional cleaning staff came in on a regular basis, and they would sanitize the room.
Wow.
So, we were using the Yamaha EAD system for miking in addition to a couple of overheads. There's my prized photo of Buddy Rich and Elvin Jones.
No.
And anyway, and there's a second drum set there, and you'll see this plexiglass, which is normally not my favorite thing. Anyway, then the state of and this wasn't just the university. I mean, the county of Los Angeles was prohibiting people from gathering indoors.
Right.
Then with the mask mandate, we were able to resume teaching in person. But the school had this policy, counterintuitive as far as I was concerned, but we were not allowed to inquire as to the vaccination status of a student.
Gotcha.
Which, again, not only counterintuitive, but my personal physician wasn't so much in favor of that.
Right.
So I started off this resumption of in-person teaching at home. And so the students came in, they used the lesson pod, and I was still instructing them by means of this remote setup or mechanism.
Yes. Yeah.
Then once I got my booster shot, I felt more comfortable to come in. And so with the presence of the plexiglass and both of us wearing masks, and I have a air filtration system on the other side of the room, it felt safe to teach in person. And then I set up a poll online, an anonymous poll, and I said, just let me know if you like in person with the masks, the plexiglass, the inability to record the lessons. Now I do a little bit of let me show you one thing. So this is something I did before the lockdown. You see that's a pretty good sized TV screen over there. And I have a Zoom Q2N camera hooked up to that. And so I can often record the students and then play it back, and then they can see what they're doing that looks right or doesn't look right.
Right.
Anyway, the results of the poll was kind of 2-to-1 in favor of in-person.
Oh, wow.
And so I said, fine. So I started coming back to school, but with the plexiglass and the mask and that whole thing. And so, it works. None of my students have come down yet with COVID.
Wow.
We've had a number of cases on campus, but the school is fairly strict, and we have to jump through a number of protocol hoops in order to gain access or entry to campus. And the students are tested twice a week. So all those things. Anyway,
that's good.
So I'm doing. I think I mentioned this before the broadcast began, but I reheaded all my drums this morning, and we're doing some stuff with the storage room, just getting everything ready for the start of second semester, including uploading the various syllabi for classes and so on. It sounds like I do this all the time. This is just part of my life, but I do find that once I get on campus, I get kind of drawn very much into the whole thing. And for drummers, we love sharing. As obvious from me, we love talking.
Well, I love that you've found a way, and through the pandemic, you found a way to really make it work, and not only make it work by, just doing what you had to do, but you created this really incredible setup. And I love that you were able to see all the angles of your students, because it's so important when you're there in person to get all of that info and understand where they're at, not just with their hands, not just, how they're reading, but their feet and how that's all working, so you can help them. That's so incredible. And I think anyone, especially those watching the YouTube version of this podcast, will really be interested to see how you put that together, because it seems like the future, right?
Well, the beginning stages of the pandemic, the audio quality on the Zoom platform wasn't working so well for music. And the beautiful thing that happened was that professors from conservatories and music schools all over the world, but particularly all over the country, we were all sharing notes and information and tips. So there was no sense of proprietary, like, someone being protective. So
right.
The folks at Berkeley, the folks at Eastman, the folks at North Texas or Indiana, and us here at USC, and I'm leaving out a number of schools, we were all like, hey, have you tried this? You should try that, or whatever.
Yes.
And, jazz in particular, but I think anything related to drumming, we want to and we like to pay it forward. So much of what we do is getting that next generation or the generation after that, a sense of solid footing in terms of playing the instrument. So we try to keep the enthusiasm to be on a contagious level, but also information, and ultimately, Sarah, I think confidence building.
Right.
Because if people feel good about themselves and what they're doing, they're able to enjoy it more and do a better job.
That's so true. It's so true. And this community, I talk about the drumming community in general, but the community is just beautiful with that, with the sharing and the encouragement, and not just encouraging of each other and your own generation, but the encouragement of the next generation coming up. It's beautiful to see. And one thing about you, Peter, that I've always found incredible is that, and this is really like the perfect example, but you embrace change. You have had this career, this, long, full of history career. You have played with incredible musicians through your time. And one of the things that you always do is you always have the newest technology, or like know about the newest thing. And it's so fascinating to me.
I'm a bit of a propeller head. I like it. I'm fascinated by it.
Yeah. And it's social media too. You're great with posting and embracing social media.
I'm still trying to get my Instagram chops together.
You're doing great.
It's okay. It's a little counterintuitive if you're a Facebook generation person.
Yes, it is. Yes, for sure.
And, back in the day when okay, I'm going to brag about one thing. When the Macintosh first came out, I got one of the first 512 kilobyte models. No external hard drive. It was all floppy. You're spending all day
Yes.
swapping out floppy disks. And it was about the size of a very large double-decker toaster oven type thing. And I took it with me to a jazz educators conference right after I'd gotten it. It was in Dallas, Texas. And I took it with me again on the plane between my feet. It wouldn't fit underneath the seat. To a Percussive Arts Society meeting. And I was on the board at the time. And the society was just about to invest a lot of money into yet another proprietary computer system for in-house, primarily for publishing, research and publishing, the percussive notes. And I just took a chance, but it was just enthusiasm took over in my big mouth, and I stood up at the meeting. I said, "This is the future. Desktop publishing is, this." And luckily, the PAS listened, and for it was a little bit expensive for what you could get at the time, but it was far less expensive than the alternative, which were, every company had these proprietary systems where people had to create code specific to a company's needs. There wasn't a whole lot of stuff that companies could buy off the shelf, and so yeah, it was not quite the Wild West days, but it was a little bit disorganized. And anyway, that was the start of things. And then Norm Weinberg was very quick to realize the potential of the Mac operating system. And so we moved the Percussive Arts Society away from the MS-DOS world and to the Mac desktop publishing realm. And I always felt good about that because I saw how the inter and intra communication results were just not just productive. I think they were quite a bit spectacular. And that being said, then I was really into composing software, and then the stuff progressed. Now that I have students who are just so beyond fluent in Logic or Pro Tools, and I really feel like the old guy in the slowest lane on the highway. So I do my best, but it's remarkable when I'll ask a student for their help in organizing one of my computers at home, or maybe I run into an assistant engineer at one of the studios. Recently, I was doing a project at Capitol Studios, and I saw one of the assistant engineers seemed very comfortable and proficient. Well, when she got on my computer, it was just boom, 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 fix this, boom, 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 fix that, reorganize that. It's that language is in everyone's fingers.
It is. It's really interesting to see kids coming up, and I say kids meaning, like elementary aged, even, with the inherent knowledge of how to use technology. They pick up an iPad and they're just whizzes at everything and figuring things out. And I'm like you, looking to the younger generation. Hey, how do I navigate this? Or what happens? Or I just popped up. What does that mean? And it's incredibly interesting. I also try to embrace change and the future and new technology as much as possible. But it's moving so fast. There's always something else, right? Always something new.
There's always something new. And you say kids, grade school kids. I still, unfortunately, when I say kids, I'm referring to college students. And
that too.
And my own kids. Say, Dad. But okay, I'm gonna. So, someone recommended TikTok.
Yes.
Not for. I mean, I look at TikTok kind of like, wow, that's really dumb. but there's iOS iPhone tips. You know, I learned a great tip I want to share with everyone. This is still pretty new, I think. So here I'm in notes, and you can see I have your notes there.
Let me maximize you so we can see what you're showing us. There we go.
So if I wanted to change something in there, I would put my finger in the text and try to get the cursor to go where I wanted, right? If you press on the space bar and just hold it down, then the whole bottom half of your iPhone becomes a touchpad, and you can move the cursor anywhere you want and then just drop it in place.
Very nice.
So
that is a great tip.
That's an amazing tip. And you're welcome.
Yes, right. Thank you for that, Peter. Oh yeah, I'm looking at this on my phone too. That's
Did it work?
Great. It works. It works perfect. Yes. So TikTok, I was going to ask you actually about TikTok, because you are always like on to the next thing and embracing that. I'm not on TikTok. A lot of people have said, "Oh, you should post podcast stuff on TikTok." I really haven't had time to get there yet, but
I don't know. I think Instagram is good enough.
Instagram is great.
But so again, TikTok is, it's just filled with so many bizarre, like kind of dumb things.
Yes.
Pranks and people in jiggling bathing suits and all the stuff that I'm not interested in. But every once in a while you come across a pretty clever, and a lot of the iPhone tips are like dumb too. They're also a big waste of time. But
right. Well, thank you for calling through them and finding that gem, because
that one was shown to me by somebody, and I'm happy to pass that along. Okay,
that was perfect. And
so where are you right now?
I am in my home studio space, actually.
This is your new studio space.
This is my new studio space.
Can you make yourself? Can I?
Yeah, let me just maximize myself here so we can see. This is
look at that.
The new studio. So AudiMute is the company that makes these incredible acoustic panels. So everything you see is an acoustic panel. The wood, Acousta wood behind me. And then in front of me is a super cool wall. Anyone who's seen my Instagram page can attest to the wall in front of me. It looks like stone, but it's actually textured strata, and it's also like acoustic material. It's incredible.
Well, the sound is fantastic, and
thank you.
It looks so elegant.
Yes, yeah, it's been night and day. I have a before and after video of Mitch, the owner of AudiMute, who actually came here to do this install, who was here for 2 days and was amazing. But he installed everything. I got to use a nail gun, which was great. The Brad gun, which was super fun. But we had a blast doing the install. And
were you wearing a safety helmet?
Ear protection. Right. But like, honestly, it was pretty easy. Like, you could do it if you ordered, if you had them design a space and ordered it and got it delivered. Like, it is doable to do it yourself. And it was incredible. Let me hold up. I'm just going to do a little plug for AudiMute because they were so great. But that's the company you can find on Instagram.
Fantastic looking stuff.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm so excited, Peter, because I'm getting some drums to go in this space. And I haven't had drums set up in my house since we moved here, and I'm so excited about it.
So you're going to get to play and practice and just have fun.
Absolutely. And, I haven't been able to play regularly since quarantine started, because I was very, very lucky to work at Zildjian, where there were tons of drums all around all the time, and I could not to
mention cymbals.
And cymbals, of course, yeah. So I got to play whenever I wanted on my lunch break, whenever I had a few minutes to get down to the drummer's lounge and play. So when we were quarantined at home, I was like, oh no, I don't have like 7 drum kits at my disposal and all these cymbals. So I am super excited about it.
May
Can't
I
wait.
inquire what drum set, the brand and sizes?
Yes, well, I haven't picked everything out yet. It's going to have to be a small kit because I have a very small space here. I'll send you some photos, but it's pretty tiny. The area that I have, I'm getting a new desk, which will make a little more space. So
Well,
we will have to see.
if you've not chosen the drum set yet,
Yes, I haven't. Do you
okay,
have a suggestion?
positively. All right, so my studio at home, I've done a lot of recording in there, and it's a fabulous space. Uh, but I tried this Tama Neo Mod kit, and the bass drum is 10 inches deep, and that saves quite a bit of room. But not only does it save room, I found that having uh, a more shallow bass drum
Mm-hmm.
in a small room worked really great because the bass drum didn't overpower the room,
Right.
and so the toms are similarly uh, and proportionately shallow,
Yep.
and it's just a fabulous drum set.
Oh, that's
And
good.
and
That's
and
thank
and they also
you.
come in that kind of retro Duco finish if you like, or you can get them in the swirl wrap. Uh, I can get you a good deal.
Yeah. Thank you. We'll chat. We'll talk about this.
Let's because
Yeah.
they're really really great drums, and um, we here at USC because the combos still cannot rehearse indoors if there are any aerosol producing elements, which would either be
Right.
vocals or any wind instrument,
Mm-hmm.
brass or saxophone. So we've set up outdoor spaces. The university provided. Um, we're actually on this large terrace of the dance school at the university, and it's got a tent and they've got lighting, and then they had the storage, like small trailer type thing,
Mm-hmm.
and we wanted a drum set that would fit easily into a rolling cage, and could be set up quite easily. And this Neomod, the 10-inch, it's just fantastic. The kids love it. It sounds great. Doesn't overpower, but it has all the sound in the world. And so the one I'm using at home, I'm using for all my recording right now,
Oh, that's
and
great.
in my home studio. And if I was there, I would play it for you.
Yes,
Um,
yeah. Well, we'll have to do a FaceTime or something. You can show me, but that's fantastic. I love that.
Sorry,
Yeah. So
excuse me. That was a blatant plug, and that was also a burp.
no, that is okay. You are allowed. That is fine. But no, that's so great. Yeah, I'm very excited about this space. I think as we've talked about, it's necessary now. We all need a little space at our home. Who knows what the future holds for all of us. I am really excited that things are starting, a momentum starting again with, like you mentioned, you got your booster, you feel safer now. Um, Live gigs are
Yeah,
picking
well,
up a little bit, but I mean, I feel like it's going to be a while, maybe next
this,
summer.
you know what? Because I want to be optimistic, and I did tour Europe. I had this window where
Yes, I
we could
wanted to
tour,
hear
and
about that.
when I flew back, it was I, when I was connecting in London. I just noticed, actually, even when I began the trip at Zurich, very early in the morning, I saw all these canceled flights
Hmm.
from South Africa because of the Omicron
Right.
variant, and Europe immediately started shutting down again as soon as I got out of the country. So I felt like, wow, that was a nice window. I think this situation is going to, unfortunately, I think persist maybe for another year or two. I don't.
Hmm.
Um, a lot of things are on hold. I was
Yeah.
supposed to go to Japan in the spring. Japan, uh, you know,
Close the borders, right?
closed,
Yeah.
and so they can't even begin the process of applying for visas. And at a certain point, they may this was supposed to happen in April. They may just say it's okay, it's not happening.
Mm.
And I'm prepared for. I mean, as terrible as all this has been, and we can't minimize, or I can't even wrap my head around the actual numbers. the other side of that was, the opportunity to have been at home and to spend this much time with my wife and with our dog. We got a pandemic puppy.
Yes. Mini,
And
right?
Minnie, right? Minnie and our children. And, Sarah, it was really fun to wake up and then think, you know what? Maybe I'll sand a coffee table today.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. I do think that musicians and though even some of us on the industry side of it, or the manufacturer side of it, the work-life balance really wasn't in existence. And I don't know that a lot of us realized that until this happened. And then, like Ronnie Vannucci, the drummer for the Killers, he said to
Hmm.
me, I noticed for the first time flowers that grew in front of my home that have been growing there every springtime, and I never knew that they were there because I was on tour every spring. And
Wow.
so that was really significant to me, like
Hmm.
just kind of a good metaphor for the whole situation, being more aware of
Of the flowers.
yeah, of the flowers, and it kind of it extends to our family members and our personal lives and our mental health and like the
Well, I'll share an anecdote, and this is a story that involves a great pianist as well as educator, and I would say even a profound philosopher, Kenny Werner, and he is teaching. I think he's teaching at Berkeley. He teaches around the world, and he wrote a
Mhm.
book called Effortless Mastery, and he has
Mm.
a new book coming out. I think the title is Be the Instrument. Um, but Kenny is not only an incredible musician and, as I mentioned, educator, but he's a bit of a provocateur. So we were on tour, and I have to admit, and this is me not wearing my business hat very well. Whenever Kenny's manager would call me, like, Peter, would you be available and interested to do a tour? I never asked about the money.
Mhm.
It didn't matter. It was just like
Mhm.
a chance to tour with Kenny. I'd love to.
Yes.
Um, and so one night we're going to we're going to play in Paris. Our first show there. It was a 2 or 3 night engagement, and we had done the setup and the sound check, and of course I was using the drums de jour, so I had to do the best I could with the house drum set. And we're having a dinner, and Kenny asked me. He said, "Do you have any musical kryptonite?" And kryptonite, as we all know, is the substance that renders Superman powerless
Yes.
or weak. So I said, well, yeah, actually, come to think of it, I do. Um, the song "There'll Never Be Another You." Boo 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 wee, boo boo bee ba doo 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 boo doo doo da 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 da. So he said, really? He said, why? And I said, well, when I was in high school, it was one of the first charts our high school jazz band played, and the band played it just. It just was so kind of amateurish sounding, and
Mhm.
it always stuck in my head, and so I always had this just negative association with the tune. And if I was going to play it, I just felt somehow it reverted back to the 14-year-old version of myself.
Mhm.
And he said, "Oh, that's interesting." And uh, the next course was served, so we're finishing our dinner. Anyway, we had a whole book of music, original tunes, and we get up on stage, and Kenny grabs the microphone. He says, "Bonsoir, welcome to the first show, ladies and gentlemen. We'd like to start off with a standard. There'll never be another you."
Oh, no.
And I'm shocked. And he sits down at the piano and he looks through the piano right at me and he just said, "Deal with it."
Mm.
And as a result, it's now one of my favorite tunes to play. I mean,
Wow.
so the the moral of the story is you deal with it. You know, one of the other gifts of this pandemic, well, it was an actual gift from my son. He gifted me online therapy.
Oh,
And
wow.
you know, my
Okay.
father was a psychiatrist, but I had been to an analyst maybe one or two visits in my
Mm-hmm.
whole life. And so I started these weekly sessions with a wonderful psychologist, and it's been illuminating and quite helpful. And she said an incredible thing to me as we were discussing something, and she said, "I just have one question for you." I said, "What's that?" She said, "What's stopping you?" And it's a simple enough question, but as with a lot of questions, I think timing is everything.
Right.
And I was like, "Yeah, you're right. What is stopping me? I'm stopping me." You
Mm-hmm.
know, and so it's allowed me to begin this process of shedding much of what is not useful. That's partly a function of age. You know, I'm
Mm-hmm.
67 now. But I found in my playing, Sarah, that uh, I'm not drawn to or tempted maybe by some of the things I used to be.
Mm-hmm.
I can see shape and form better than ever before, and instead of like feeling like, oh, I'm getting older, I'm not able to do what I used to do. I'm like, wow, I'm actually able to pretty much play whatever I'm hearing or imagining,
Mm-hmm.
which kind of puzzled me, but I was grateful that that seemed to be the case. Uh, and it's all part of this letting go, because when
Mm-hmm.
we let go, we can just do much more than we think we might be capable of. Um, and so that's kind of where I'm at. And so uh, I've never enjoyed drumming as much as I do now. Uh, and I think in part, Sarah, because I'm enjoying other things. I'm
Yeah.
allowing myself to enjoy what you talked about, the things that are so important, that balance of life.
Right. Right. Exactly. I love that so much. It's it's significant, I think, when you realize, like you just said, what's stopping you is what the therapist asked you, right? And it's amazing the realization that we are our own barrier
Hmm.
to anything that we want. The belief that we can't do something or it won't turn out right, or the fear of moving forward in a new direction, that's what's stopping us. It has nothing to do with external limits, right?
Most of the time, yes.
Most, well, for sure. There are external limits for sure. But
Sometimes.
once you kind of open your mind to that thought, where you are in charge of your future or your destiny or your playing or whatever it is, your time, right? Like time is such a valuable commodity, and
Boy.
I don't think I realized that to the extent that I do now until this all happened. I
Yeah.
think
Well,
the
it's
one thing, right?
because
I'm
you're
so
young. You're
right.
young. You have a whole different
Different
concept of
concept of
time.
time, but the time that you give to others, the time that you spend with others, how important that is, who you choose to spend your time with, um the activities that you spend your time on. I think it's just so important, and perspective has been gained over this past almost 2 years.
Well, and there were two other things of significance that happened in my life, and within 2 days of one another. One was I had a heart attack back in late March. I'm fine now. They inserted 4 stents, and good as new. But the other thing was the birth of our grandson, and boy, if that doesn't give you a greater sense of what's important, then maybe nothing will. So he's just been a wonderful gift in our lives. And
Mm-hmm.
someone the other day, I think it was just yesterday, sorry, how you doing? And I wrote back, I said, I'm feeling grateful. That's how I'm doing.
Oh, I love it. So
Now,
good.
can I share something with everyone?
Absolutely, please.
I want to talk about warming up, because when I see a lot of people warm up on a practice pad, it's always very, a lot of height and a fair amount of power.
Mm-hmm.
But what I found, going back to a warm up that my teacher showed me when I was 12 years old, Professor George Gaber, who I wound up studying with at Indiana University.
Mm-hmm.
I use this warm up now, but treating the whole process kind of like a communion. And so it's my time to say hello to my hands and the sticks and even the pad, Sarah. I'm interested in the tone that I get.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I just slowly I could do it matched. You see the height?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll just go to the overhead. So I'm looking at angle, and I'm looking at height, and I'm listening to the tone. And because the number of strokes changes, you can't go on automatic. You have to be very in the moment for each tap.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a beautiful way. It's certainly low impact, but it makes a very strong impact in terms of your sense of connection to the process of playing. So I want to encourage everyone to spend a little time. It's not just quiet time at the pad. It's quiet time with yourself. And I think it's a great way to enter into a playing session, whether morning, afternoon, or evening, whether you're by yourself or playing with others.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a really, for me, it's proven to be very beneficial, and I want to share it because so many people still seem to treat warm up as a bit of a kind of so
Yeah.
not quite macho, but a much more athletic thing than I think it ought to be. And I see it on other instruments. Some of my favorite players, the warm up process is very deliberate, and it does start off gentle. So it's a little bit of like mild stretching.
Yeah,
Before we
absolutely.
get to the other stuff.
Easing into it. I like that. I like it. I mean, it isn't that, like, if you think about warming up, it's just, it makes so much sense.
And something that brass players do, I learned this from Wayne Bergeron, who's our incredible do everything but lead trumpet player here in Los Angeles, who can be heard to fabulous effect all over the new West Side Story score. But Wayne not only warms up, he warms down after a gig or session, to kind of put everything sort of back into a sense of stasis, a place where everything's relaxed, and so the next time he picks up the horn, he's in good shape. I just saw these in the background, and I wasn't putting them there out of vanity, but I did want to make sure to mention it.
Oh, please do. Yes.
Modern Drummer just came out with this new edition of their Legends series, and more pictures of me than you might be interested in, but a lot of them are historical, maybe hysterical. Some weather. That's hysterical. Me in high school. There you go.
It's amazing.
Picture of me without my shirt on. That's hysterical. But a lot some new interviews and transcriptions, and it's I was kind of dazzled by the quality of it, the paper, the print.
Absolutely.
And so this is a lot of fun. And uh, if you don't mind my plugging this, if you're looking for a gift for the musician in your home, the Musician's Lifeline, I co-wrote it with Dave Black. I polled 250 musical colleagues, friends, heroes. 165 got back to me. I asked everyone the same set of 7 or 8 questions,
Oh,
and their
wow.
responses were incredible. I'll just tell you the questions. Here are the questions.
Please, please.
All right. What's the best advice you've ever received? This next one was, what's the best advice you've ever given?
Hmm.
What's the one thing you would have done differently in your studies or career? Best travel advice, that's kind of a moot point at the moment, but
Hmm.
best sight reading advice. A lot of these were really terrific. Do you have any business advice for a musician? And finally, any advice relating to people skills? And then for some of the people, I also asked audition advice.
Mm-hmm.
For auditions, not only a gig getting out of school, but even auditioning within school. And because auditions are coming up for many people in January, if they're applying for colleges, I'm going to give you all one audition tip.
Please
Okay?
do.
Here you go. The people who are sitting on the other side of the table are rooting for you. They're not sitting in judgment. They want you to succeed. They want you to be the answer to or the solution to their quest or problem of looking for a drummer or a pianist or whatever instrument you play. And that's a nice little paradigm shift. Instead of thinking that they're sitting in cold, hard judgment of you, just think that they want you to play well.
Mm.
And they're there to hear you. And we all know what the audition thing is. I don't think anyone. I tell this, in fact, to every auditioning student or
That's
applicant.
so good.
I say, no one's ever walked out of an audition thinking, "Boy, that's the most fun I ever had, and it's the best I ever played."
Yes.
And boy, did I have some. I had some pretty monumentally bad auditions when I was younger. Once I got older, I got pretty good at them. And so, anyway, just here's my the other advice that goes with that is have fun when you play.
Mm. That's beautiful, Peter. And I usually end these podcasts asking for advice to the next generation and advice to students, and it's so perfect, and it kind of goes along with everything that you've talked about today.
And yeah, I think so. I think we you know what? We put a nice bow on this package.
There we go. But before we go, what do you, well, you have the Legends book that just came out, and I will include a link so that everyone can check that out, and the Musician's Lifeline book, of course, which I just have to mention. The Legends book, and you just talked about some of the pictures in there. You have such an amazingly documented life with these beautiful pictures from your incredible career. And I'm wondering, did you always travel with a camera, or are these pictures that other people have taken along the way, or a combo?
Well, my dad was a bit of an avid photographer, so he documented the earlier stages of my playing career.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I got the camera bug from him. So, yes, I've had various cameras over the years, some better than others, and there were occasional lapses, like when I just a black hole of I can't find the photos. What's interesting is I had a digital camera when I was on tour with Diana Krall. This was 2004,
Mm-hmm.
and I wiped out every copy of every photo I had. I was doing some. I thought I was saving space on my disk, and I started using this program, and it found duplicate files, and I didn't realize that all these photos had the same numbering system.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So, and the funny thing is, I still had that shoebox with negatives from, high school.
Right.
50 years ago, I still had all those photos. So I've become better at documenting. That was one of the other things I did during the pandemic. I did a lot of scanning. And what was fun was sometimes with these cameras, you would think you'd rewound the film all the way and you'd open it back and oh no, and close it real quickly, and then you'd expose some of the roll. And so the camera, the film developer, when you sent the roll off, would maybe they wouldn't print all those photos because some of them were half exposed. But I'm looking through all these negatives and I think, oh my goodness, there's a picture of Jocko I've never seen. Because it was half exposed, but there was Jocko.
Wow.
So I got fairly handy at scanning, and I utilize a couple of different scanners. I think we have 4 of them in our house at the moment.
That's amazing.
That we utilize. So a little bit of documentation going on. It was funny before the heart attack. I was kind of manically trying to get a lot of this accomplished. I think on some level I was intuiting something about that. Now I'm more relaxed, but the other thing about backups, folks, if sorry to be in the advice giving mood, but
no, it's great.
I'll repeat something one of my engineer friends told me. He said, if you're not backed up in at least 3 places, you're not backed up. So it's not a matter of if, it's always a matter of when a hard drive goes bad. So get yourself, the drives are remarkably inexpensive these days. Get yourself a couple of backup drives and back up your data.
Yeah, that's great advice as well. And please continue to document because we all love it. Whether it's pictures of Minnie or flowers or anything that you're posting, I'm enjoying it. So,
well, thank you.
Yeah.
In fact, I posted a nice shot of Minnie in front of our fireplace yesterday on Instagram. So find me on Instagram, folks.
Yes.
And Sarah, thank you for posting the links, and thank you as always for giving all of us a place to gather and yap. I'm sorry I was so talkative, but
no, it's perfect. It's perfect,
so nice
Peter.
to see you.
It's so great to see you too, and hopefully I will see you in person again soon enough. But for now, this will have to do. But it's just great to see you and catch up. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right, everyone, stay well.
Thank you for tuning in today. Join us each Tuesday for new episodes of Sarah Hagan Backstage.